Well, welcome, and I am your host, and my name is Britton. Today, I just wanted to get on here before we start our conversation and let you know that I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I speak to people that are in those professions, and this channel is for information only. Hopefully, it's good information that you can apply to your life. So, as I speak to those guests, and if you feel like you want to support any of those, some of them are authors, blogs, mental health advocates. They have foundations, not-for-profits. If you want to support those people, I'll put the links in the description below. Also, if you'd like to support the Suicide Monk podcast and help keep this moving forward, I'll put that GoFundMe in the link below. I'll put the link down there for the Ashes to Life coaching as well. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us keep moving forward. And any prayers, lifting up, good vibes, we will take them. Thanks a lot. Again, we'll see you on the good side. Well, welcome to the Suicide Monk, and I am your host, and my name is Britton. Today we're speaking with Matt Zemon, and he is the author of the bestseller Psychedelics for Everyone. And it's a beginner's guide to helping people with like anxiety, depression, OCD, I'm assuming, things like that is an introduction guide to learning about psychedelics and the benefits for that. You want to tell me a little bit about that? Actually, you know what? Who are you, Matt? Tell me who you are. I want to know a little bit about you, man. I get a little way ahead of myself. I'm way far into the story. So tell me about your life. What you grew up with? What kind of a map of what brought you to this point in writing a book and then entering into the world of psychedelics.
I appreciate that, Britton. This is I'm going to try to take this in a different direction than kind of the normal podcast, because your audience is different, your topic is different, level of vulnerability and things that you express on this particular show is just different. So I'll share differently.
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with parents that divorced young. My father was an alcoholic. My mom got remarried when I was going into fourth grade. And so I had kind of one house that was relatively calm and then another house that was very volatile. We never knew at any given moment what the next sentence from our father would be. And I think for me, that helped me develop peacekeeping skills, but it also led to people-pleasing skills. It led to not prioritizing myself. And then there is a constant level of fear, low-level anxiety in that type of growing up.
Lots of it.
Lots of it.
Is it low level? Because as I look back, I'm like, wow, that was a lot of stress.
It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of stress when you don't know if there's the next sentence is an eruption. So then fast forward, I did all the things. My teenage years were fine. My dad died when I was 19, so I was very young. His mom, my grandmother, died when I was 18. And then I was 19 with him, and then 20 with my mom. So boom, 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 lots of death in a very short window. But then I got married and had kids and did the business thing. And fast forward to my mid-40s, some friends invited me to do a guided psilocybin or magic mushroom experience. And it wasn't what I did. That's just not... My vices were workaholism, were not being around all that much because I was so focused on providing and meeting my needs through external validation. And I didn't do drugs, for lack of a better word. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. But they gave me enough nudging that I did. And that very first experience just totally and absolutely changed the way I look at the world. In that experience, I reconnected with my mom, which was just such a wild thing to happen. I felt incredibly safe and loved, and then realized, oh my God, I'm in my 40s and I don't feel safe and loved in my everyday life. And why not? I felt connected to kind of everything, and certainly realized that I wasn't separate and apart from nature. I was part of nature. And that was not how I viewed the world. And there are a bunch of other things, but that first experience led me to say I wanted to learn more. I went back to school to get a master's in psychology and neuroscience so I could understand what's the science behind this medicine. And then I also traveled the world experiencing different psychedelics from taitas and shaman and maestros and PhDs, and MDs and just trying to see what else is out there with these different molecules and how do people take them and how do they work? And all of that's led to today where I have, I guess, 4 books: The Beginner's Guide, The Veteran's Guide, Psychedelics for Everyone Beyond the Trip. And I spend a lot of time with ceremonial leaders and how to incorporate medical best practices into what they do. And I spend time with medical professionals on how to incorporate kind of context and ceremony into what they do. And I feel aligned and I feel competent and I feel good about this work. And I'm just trying to get out reasonable information to the best that I'm able to for people who are curious about this topic.
Right. Yeah, we're on the cusp, or on the forefront, I guess I should say, of reawakening psychedelics in the modern world. At least our country, for sure. They've been practiced in Amsterdam for some time now. That's the place to go, and you get to walk down the street and buy boomers out of a vending machine. From my understanding, I'm like, oh man, but what were you like prior to, besides just workaholism, or in that just tells me that maybe you weren't as present in the family, but you still can be. I've seen guys work 80 hours a week and still be very intentional with their family. So, I know when you work that much, you're still taking time away from that, but I have seen it, and they do it well. They're just working on 4 hours of sleep all the time, that's it. So how did that change your trajectory besides, just researching and going to shamans, and then what effects has that had throughout your life? You've been doing this for a little while now, correct?
Yeah, I think what you're asking, let me try to answer it this way, is that I was fine. So I was fine. I had what appeared to be external success, but I wasn't deeply happy, but I was fine. I wasn't satisfied, but I was fine. So what does that look like? It looks like I'd hit one business goal and then I'd immediately set another one. It looked like I was looking externally for validation all the time. It looked like I was trying to please my parents that had been dead for 20 or 30 years. And it looked like just not a fully satisfied, engaged life. I have a very loving, and had even then a very loving relationship with my wife and my kids, but they missed me. There was a time when I was doing one thing up in North Carolina and then down in Miami for 3 or 4 nights a week for years. It was a lot of time away. I was drinking too much, and again, just looking outside for validation, and I didn't know how supported I was. I didn't know how loved I was. I didn't know how to count to enough. I felt lonely, even being married and having kids and having company and all that. Overall, I knew something was missing. I just didn't know what. And I think I had sworn off any type of higher power back when my parents died. And I got up, I had some coffee, went to work, came home, we had dinner, did a little more work, watched a show, went to bed. There just wasn't a lot of anything else. And this changed all of that. It changed how I think about work. It changed on how I think about what's enough. It changed about how I think about how important my relationship with my family is. It changed how I think about community locally and friends. And what does it mean to be a friend? What does it mean to have time and to make time? These tools, I know we're a little bit off topic here, but I'm just trying to bring it back. When I talk about these tools, I tell people all the time, these aren't cures for anything. These are catalysts. They're catalysts for insights, for awakenings, for awareness. And then with those awakenings, insights, and awarenesses, then it's like, what do you do with that? And that's the practice. And I'm loving the practice. I'm so thankful for the ability to have used these tools to see what I needed to see and to feel what I needed to feel. And now I'm grateful that there's a whole community that I've found and that I work with that helps remind me, and that I remind them of I'm worthy, I'm enough, I'm loved, I'm connected. We're all in this together. Does that resonate with you?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's curious how, because when I did it, I did not. I was like, "This is not going to work. I have no reference point for feeling good, being good.
Mm-hmm.
All my childhood memories are pretty much not good."
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have those reference points. And as you were, I was listening to one of your interviews, and you explained this really well. Is that actually I might have it written down here. It's actually one of your quotes, but you had also said something to this effect: that psychedelics don't alter our reality; they simply unveil the beautiful truth of our existence that has been there all along. And that's exactly what happened to me. Like all the walls that I had built, all the security and the safety from the outside world, it was gone, and it allowed me to see things in a life of hope instead of despair. Because I was going to go take my life, and I was certain within 2 days of doing the psychedelics or doing psilocybin I'd be dead. And I had every intention. I was like, I'm within an hour of the place I want to be. So perfect. It's the perfect Hail Mary. I get what I want, and if it works, I get to live. And so far it's worked. But what it did is it broke down those walls to let me see the very nature of who I am. And that's what, kind of what you were talking about here, I think.
It's totally, the words you're using are so important. I meet a lot of people who say, well, psychedelics change me. Will they help me make me better? And I think your words are really powerful. They don't change. They actually don't change you at all. It helps you see your true nature. It helps you remember who you are. Remember your power. Remember your connection. Remember your relationship. Remember, for me, it's remember that I'm a spiritual creature having a human experience. Remember that I'm not alone. Remember that we are all part of the same ocean. We might look like different waves, but we are all part of this thing. And for me, that's powerful. Okay, I don't need to change. I just need to stop telling myself these stories. Well, what stories do I need to stop telling myself? And that, for me, are the things that the psychedelics unveil. Oh, this piece of I have to go do this to be happy is not true.
The untruths.
The untruths.
Oh, what was I going to ask you? There was, geez, I forgot where I was going with that. Man, that was a fast bullet train. It was gone.
We're talking about remembering who you are. We're talking about
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
You had mentioned something about spirituality, and you kind of let that go. Did that experience kind of change or push you back into a spiritual life?
Incredibly so. Yeah. I mean, I was reading God is Not Great and was a fan of that type of there's no higher power. There is nothing. Because nobody would allow. I mean, I just saw a lot of death in a small window, and I know many people have seen more. And for me, yeah, that's how I did not believe in God. And almost immediately on this journey, it's like, of course there is spirit. Now we can call it universal consciousness, we can call it God, we can use whatever language, but source, there is something else that we are all part of, that we are all connected, and that each of us have in our core essence a piece of that. Absolutely crystal clear. It's not about, for lack of a word, faith. It's about knowing. It's about embodiment. It's about feeling. For me, these handily, again, we're going in a very different direction. I call these entheogens. I don't even like calling what I work with psychedelics, because I believe psychedelics implies a whole bunch of things that are important and different than the use of these tools for specific spiritual purpose. And when I work with entheogens, it is to commune with source. It is to connect with this experience. It is to give thanks, which is how these things have been used for thousands of years and around the world. Whether we're talking about, there are cave drawings in Africa that are 7,000 to 9,000 years old showing mushroom shaman. We know there were psychedelics in India, in China. Witches were burned all throughout Europe for their use of plant medicine. We knew there were shaman in Siberia, and Of course, in North America with peyote, with our indigenous population, we go move our way down to Mexico, Central America, South America, we get into things like ayahuasca and other medicines down there, mescaline products, peyote, other products. Other products is the wrong word, other entheogens. Yeah. But all of it was because they believed healing was both a spiritual process and a medical process. It was a combined thing. So yeah, so now I'm finishing a doctorate of ministry after. So I did the master's of psychology and neuroscience, and now I'm back in seminary studying the history of entheogens and how they've been used across multiple cultures to create mystical experiences. And I'm comparing that to what science is saying people are saying happens to them on psychedelics. It's fascinating.
I love history. Love history. Love ancient history. But that's what it also, surprisingly, I've had this tumultuous relationship with my creator, with God. Very, very disgustingly hateful relationship with God. And it's actually pushed me, especially in the last few months, to reconcile that because of the anger. There's something, I felt the benefits of being okay for once, like being 100% mentally balanced, physically balanced, just balanced. And so now that is the drug to chase. I'm like, how do I get better and better and better? And not just for me, but so I can transfer it. And I think that's what it really, because I don't feel, kind of wheezing, I don't feel capable at all. I mean, I've never completed any big goals or done anything really great or been really anything great. I was just existing. And now I have the opportunity to do something great every day. It's a weird thing because all those walls kept me from moving in the direction that I was meant to move. And that's what the psilocybin did, was tear all that down to give me opportunity to rewrite my story and live.
It's really beautiful. It's, I find it incredible to think about how many stories I told myself, to think about how limiting in many ways our culture is. We're from very early, we're told to give up our voice, to give up our power. We don't know what's best for ourselves. We're told to sit in desks and sit in a row and do what we're told, and then go produce and work in the culture. And for many people, including me, that's just not fulfilling. And then to see that, oh wow, I have agency, I have power, I have value. I don't need to do anything to earn love. I have it. So then what do I want? So then what I do each day matters much less than it did. I know, of course, we have to make resources. We have to have a house and food and all that stuff. Right. And of course.
Right.
But how we do that is what we do to do those things is much less important than how we do them. How do we wake up each day and bring that level of awareness and presence to whatever it is that we do? Any of the jobs that we might choose, chopping wood and carrying water might be the Buddhist way of saying, you just do what you do to do that. But how do you chop your wood and carry your water?
Yep.
And doing that, knowing I'm doing this, I'm loved. I'm doing this, I don't need anything. I have it all.
Yeah.
I love what you, sorry, go ahead, finish. And you said one more thing. I'll come back to it though.
No, go ahead.
I think you also said, oh my God, we're trading places here. I just lost it. I'll come back. I lost in the.
That's all right. How have you seen, because you deal with more than just like psilocybin, you've been in the psychedelics. So I'm assuming ketamine, MDMA. Is it Bufo? Is that or Bufo?
Bufo, sure. 5-MeO-DMT.
Okay. Yeah, the frog. And then how have you seen this? And being in psychology, how does it help people like me? I mean, honestly, I don't know anybody. Well, I guess I never really thought about that. I haven't met anybody that's done psychedelics that was as heavily suicidal as I was.
Mm.
And although I walk with a lot of suicidal people, not a lot of them have gone to do this, even though I'm promoting it. We have a fear in this country that has been indoctrinated in us since, the 60s when this research came out, and then they started shutting it down. And I don't know officially when they did, but, that's when the indoctrination process and Reagan and the Peanut Man and all those guys went nuts on drugs and really shut all that down. So how, now that we're in this process of rebirthing this and giving opportunity for people, have you seen people with severe case, and suicides might be a little extreme here, but with OCD, anxiety, PTSD, all these, like, in the severity of those things that are very, very ugly, ailment.
I want to answer it this way. So what do these molecules do for anybody, for me, for you, for someone, anyone else who's actively suicidal, for someone who's experiencing deep depression, anxiety, OCD, and eating disorder, smoking too much, drinking too much, anything, any of these external behaviors, soothing behaviors? What they do in many cases is they break repetitive thinking patterns. So let's talk about that for a second. As we get older, we all trim our neural connections. So we literally go from our minds running around on a playground to kind of being put on a treadmill, and we only see things the way we see things.
Right.
And that's biological, and that's okay. And for some people, the treadmill they're on appears more challenging than others. And they have a lot of catastrophication or suicidal ideation or harder time moving into the present, staying really rooted in the past or rooted in the future, but not in the now. What psychedelics do biologically is they allow neurons to fire that haven't fired since you were a kid. And for many people, that disrupts the way they've been thinking, and they can all of a sudden in an instant see things differently and remember, I haven't always thought about this or that this way. There are other ways to think about it. And for some people, for me, once you see that, you can't unsee it. So then it's, okay, now I know I see this other way that I haven't seen, and now what do I want to do with that? The other thing that many of these psychedelics do is it turns down shame, blame, and guilt. So those are really powerful, strong emotions. So again, in the effort to be as vulnerable as possible in this particular discussion, I had an experience as a young teenager that was completely inappropriate with a family member, extended family member, 10 years old. And for me, that was highly traumatic. It's something I couldn't talk about. I carried a ton of shame, blame, guilt, all of that. And in an instant, with this, in a particular journey, this was not what I was going into to try to reconcile, but it came to me that I wasn't I was able to look at the experience not through my eyes, but through hers, and to see how hurt she was and how rejected she felt, and not to condone the behavior, but to understand the humanity of it, and then to let it go. It's not mine to carry. And now I could talk to anybody about this. And now I can talk kind of freely because the weight is lifted. We see this medicine. So this past year, I spent a year working with veterans. And in the veteran world, we have, depending which report you read, somewhere between 17 and 44 veterans a day are taking their lives. It's a big number.
Yeah. And then we have enlisted.
And we have enlisted.
Enlisted are a very high rate as well.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting, so many things are interesting about this particular population. One thing I found fascinating is many of these veterans had really traumatic childhoods, which is what led them to the military to begin with.
Yeah. It's a double whammy.
And then it's a double whammy.
Kind of call it. You go with this traumatic childhood, and then you go into the military and you get a whole lot more trauma. Just piled on top of it.
Piled on top with, and then not a lot of skills and not a lot of resources. And for those that are fortunate enough to be the elite, the Rangers, the SEALs, the Delta forces, they are the least likely to raise their hands and ask for help because they don't want to hurt their career. So they wait till their 19th year before saying, I need to see somebody. And they suppress and suppress and suppress. And that's a lot to carry. And then they leave, and you get into identity crisis of who am I anymore after, and where's my brotherhood, and where's my sisterhood, and so I went a little bit off track here. So I bring this up to the most common solution for this population is to give them antidepressants and talk therapy. And for a certain percentage, they work. But for a large percentage, they don't. So what science is trying to solve for, and they're looking at psychedelics, is what do we do for the people where it doesn't work? And in a recent phase 3 clinical trial with MDMA, they gave veterans, first responders, victims of sexual assault, multiple people with treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder. They gave them 3 sessions of MDMA with therapy before and after. And over 70% emerged from that study no longer having a PTSD diagnosis. It's a tremendous number. Now, MDMA is still completely illegal, and the FDA has said we want another trial before we approve this drug, but it's those kinds of results we're seeing. So you started this discussion saying, because your experience has been psilocybin, and you were asking about ketamine and MDMA and ayahuasca and ibogaine and bufo, and yeah, there are a bunch of different options. And I think what I would encourage your listeners to do is first, what's coming into your consciousness? Maybe you have a job where you can't do anything illegal, so you don't have any other options besides ketamine. Great, then go that direction. Right. Maybe you keep hearing about ayahuasca and that sounds interesting to you. Great, figure out a way for that. Maybe I keep hearing about psilocybin and that sounds interesting. Beautiful. All of these medicines are powerful. They all work differently, and there are reasons, maybe medically or biologically, why you might be better with one versus the other. But as you research more, hopefully you'll find a provider that does a medical screening. Hopefully they'll talk to you about, you're on this antidepressant. You can't do ayahuasca or MDMA, but you can do ketamine or psilocybin, and you'll find your path. So I think the particular compound in some ways is less important than, if nothing else has worked, this can be a really powerful thing to try.
Yep. And then, I've talked to a lot of, we'll just say therapists for a blanket term. Mm-hmm. And EMDR has been very effective with PTSD and mm-hmm. some of these things as well. So there's also a non-psychedelic way to do this as well. If these still scare you, I think that's, we've built so many walls and fear of, especially with addicts. They're like, I'm an addict, I can't touch that. And it's like, you're worried you're going to get addicted to something that I've had mushrooms in my room for months. And I generally don't go into it unless I'm going to face something. And, because I like the neuroplasticity. I want to learn new things. I just started taking Spanish this year. I've wanted to take Spanish for years and years and years. And I'm like, now I'm not taking Spanish. I'm teaching myself Spanish. I'm learning it from YouTube. And I'm like, you're intelligent enough. You can do this and you can start formulating. So I'm talking to myself in little sentences right now. I'm like, bad. It's just increasing my ability to do more than I ever thought I could and be more than I ever thought I could. Far more than I ever thought I could. And that's the most incredible thing that I think is about this. But there's, I did a lot of pre-work. I'm sorry. I mean, I started this when I was 18 and went through hell and went through church and, AA and all these things, and all that information is just finally I think, starting to blossom. Like I watered the garden for a very long time that was not fruitful, and now it gets to grow.
I would love to nudge back on something you said,
Sure.
and then I'd like to elaborate on something you said.
Yeah.
So the nudge back is, you said specifically, I'm being more than I ever was. And I would nudge back that no, you are seeing yourself as more than you've ever seen yourself.
Sure.
But you've always been this beautiful, amazing human that you are.
Question.
Yeah. That's and just because language matters.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just gently pushing back on that. The substance use is so fascinating to me, because we're so funny as a culture. We look down upon people who have substance use challenges, but we celebrate people who are workaholics. We look down on people we have a hierarchy of looking down. Oh, your behavior is you eat too much. No, that's bad. Oh, wait a minute. That's not as bad though as being a heroin addict. Okay. Yeah. And then where's alcohol abuse come in our culture? Where's smoking come in we're just a funny culture, and we're without rhyme or reason. We judge people, but so many of us, we all have actually, not so many, we all do behaviors that don't serve us, and some just are looked harder. So let's now talk about substance use for a second, because that's such an important one. Bill W., the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, wanted LSD to be a part of their process. There are really interesting letters between him and Carl Jung talking about just the power of LSD, power of psychedelics. And his premise was in 12-step programs, it often starts with surrender to a higher power. And in his language, he said, well, it's hard for drunks to do that, so we should use LSD to kind of force the spiritual experience. Okay. I think there's a lot to be said for that. From chemically, most psychedelics, not all, like ketamine actually has some addiction potential, but most psychedelics are anti-addictive. Rats won't take psychedelics over food. Most psychedelics have diminished returns. If I take psilocybin today and I take it tomorrow, I have to take more to have anywhere near the same effect. So in many ways, these tools they're not the same as drugs of addiction. So that's, in our culture, we classify all drugs the same, kind of, but we don't talk about caffeine as a drug. We don't talk about sugar as a drug. And then we say all other drugs are the same. So again, most psychedelics are anti-addictive. And then the results for things like alcohol use, things like smoking, are pretty phenomenal. The smoking cessation testing at Johns Hopkins is more than twice as effective than the best thing on the market. I know a million people who have not just reduced their drinking, but given up their drinking from psilocybin. If I had a sibling or a child with a opioid problem, a heroin issue, I'd get them to an ibogaine clinic in a minute. The effects on that particular medicine with that particular substance use seems just to have incredible efficacy. So I get it. I get that some of these 12-step programs, you're not supposed to have any substance, period. It's all up to you and your higher power. And
you know, at a lot of these 12-step programs, and I mean a lot, because of kind of where I'm at, and see and talk to these people, they're still smoking weed. Most of them smoke weed. I'm not drinking, but this is okay. So there's something to be said about clearing your mind and cleaning it up so you can function and think properly and decide for yourself. And that's kind of what I've done over the last, I guess it's been about a month now. I just stopped drinking at home. Like, don't go black and white like you always do, Britton. But, it's not like I'm a full blown, I'm peeing myself, and I'm just not, my body won't let me. I don't have that privilege of erasing everything for a day. My body throws up, says, no, you only get 3-4 drinks and then you're done. And so, but I drink, a couple a day and have a nice little buzz, but that's what I liked. But ever since I stopped drinking at home, I'm not nauseous in the morning. Amazing. I'm clear-headed. I'm motivated. I'm ready to get going. I don't feel bad. I'm not lethargic. I'm not, and I really don't drink a whole lot. I just drink every day. I was like, so just cut that out. Cut the everyday at home out. And then I don't go out very much because I'm so busy. I'm like, I pass out by 9:30. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm saving money. And then I like the effects. And then I'm chasing that thing that builds me, because that's what psilocybin has allowed me to do and see and be, and whatever language you want to use.
Yeah,
But
no, just remember and see.
Yeah.
I love, you brought up also cannabis, and I think that's a great thing to talk about, because people often compare, well, what if we legalize psychedelics and legalize cannabis, and is it the same? And I don't like cannabis, and what's that gonna, how I'm not going to like psychedelics, or I love cannabis. And what I gently remind people is, when we say weed, when we say pot, when we say I'm smoking this, the level of THC and CBD is so different depending on what strain. It's a shame that's all called generically weed, and that we have, as a culture, we have chased the highs, which means increasing the THC concentration, decreasing the CBD. And what does that do? It's leading to, the first time ever, psychotic breaks on cannabis. It's leading to violence on cannabis. It's leading to paranoid, anxious-filled cannabis experiences, which is not what the 60s were about. And cannabis can be a great ally, in being an ally in a psychedelic or entheogenic experience. And it can also be not helpful. So I just encourage people to not really connect the dots, and to just be careful of what you ingest, period, including that, and watch that concentration for all of our sake.
So do you think that's a danger of what we're entering into with psychedelics? And maybe not so much with psilocybin, because we don't really, I mean, it's hard to grow a morel mushroom, and then we're going to mix strains of mushroom. It might be a little more difficult to grow something like that. But like marijuana has been able to be manipulated extensively. And that's the danger with, like, maybe not LSD, but even with ketamine and these things that are synthetic or manufactured, there's a danger of the government sticking their fingers on it and making it, and taking the organic nature and of what it is and what it will do, because it already does what it's supposed to do by itself. And then people try to reinvent this and make it new. And that's where we get screwed up. And that's why, weed has never been addictive until probably the last 10 years. I mean,
so a couple of things are coming forward. I'm going to say the weed strains has nothing to do with the government. That's the marketplace, and that's right. So that's just science. But I'm going to take this a couple of different directions. So yes, we can talk the growing of psilocybin mushrooms and the ability to create different strains. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of different strains of psilocybin mushrooms, and there are people doing that. So it is important to think about your dose based on the strain and your goal for the experience. Yeah. But I think more important than the farming is the context. So we talk about psychology, and we talk about medical as if it is a religion in our culture, and actually using these tools in that context. I'm going to take ketamine in a clinic with an IV and a nurse anesthesiologist. And because that's neutral, that's not neutral. Right. That's a position. And I'm going to stick with ketamine. There are ketamine providers who believe this is just a biochemical reaction, and that's legal. So we're going to put an IV in your arm, we're going to give you some ketamine, and we're going to send you on your way after you recover. There are other providers who believe it's a biochemical, psychosocial, spiritual process, and they want you to have a different experience in the ketamine process, and they want to insert context into the process. That's also legal. It's up to us as consumers to decide, what do we want? Are we looking for medical? Are we looking for psychosocial, spiritual? What do we want? Because both can be legal, but I think that context piece is much more where it's not in trouble, because I like to think of all of this as an and. If we didn't have all of these institutions studying psychedelics, we didn't have people like Michael Pollan writing about how psychedelics helped him change his mind, we wouldn't have this cultural shift, this energy, this renewed acceptance of these tools. And the indigenous keepers, the wisdom keepers of this medicine never stopped. They just were more underground. but the medicine's been delivered year after year after year in ceremonial context, going back thousands of years. And then again, what do we want? What do I want out of my relationship with psychedelics? I might want a medical, I might want a spiritual, I might want an underground coach or therapist, all of which are fine, as long as I know what there's clear understanding of what do I want and what am I getting.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting. So, all Hail Mary.
But, and thank goodness, I mean, the all Hail Marys it made a big impact.
Yeah. Well, I think the Hail Mary, and this is the important part for me, is I was 1000% ready to not be me anymore. And, it happened at the right time. It came for me at the right time so I could unfold properly and live out this thing, but go through the suffering that I went through in order to use that for other people and help other people find their way away from that darkness. So that's what that really, I mean, and it keeps doing it. I mean, I'm, 9 months post, and that neuroplasticity is still happening. The challenges of life are great. They're actually greater than they have been. And they're not as hard to tackle. They're not as hard to, I shouldn't say tackle, to navigate, to face, to walk with. Because, and you said it earlier, so many times we're looking at what happened to us. And instead of, now I'm starting to have a relationship with the ebb and flow of the earth. And that's because we look through both veils. We look through the darkness. We look through the light. And so when I lift the veil to the light and look there a little bit longer, I can navigate the hard parts a lot easier, it seems like. And now I'm starting to put to rest the things that tormented me for a lifetime. And that thing is rage. And now I know that I have the capability and the strength to put this thing to rest and it not be a contributing factor to my outward expression of life. So yeah, it's fascinating. Oh, man. So much. I have so many notes.
I love what you just said. And one thing that's jumping out that as I was researching and listening in advance to the work you do, this is my imagination. So tell me if I'm right on this, but this work, this podcast, these discussions, as much as they are about, I want to share with others. I want to help others who are walking this suicide walk. I want to share, but I also, in every discussion, it feels that you also are feeling that this is your learning, healing, and growing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Love that. So
that's one of my things is, even though I'm giving this away, and I'm just like, oh, that was a really good way to put that, Britton. I don't know what I said. I get to express my life or something like that. And I'm like, that's actually really cool. That was a great way I get to learn as I'm expressing my suffering and my reward, my discovery of new life. I get to share that, but I'm also learning at the same time that I'm speaking. And I think that's the beautiful thing about what this is for me. Not only I get to finally talk about the thing that tormented me, but I get to share that and bring people into that fold that they understand and they can relate to. And I'm not alone and they're not alone. And I'm like, that's a beautiful round table right there. And nobody's in charge because everybody's at the same damn thing. And they got their different ways, but they're all sitting at the same table.
I love that. That notion of we're all spiritual peers is comes with this abundant mindset that, okay, I don't need to put myself on top of you. Our culture is so quick to, you've got to take what's yours. It's all a competition. It's who's the top of the class and it's grades and it's on and on and on about competition. You've got to work hard. You've got to be smarter. You've got to be faster. And it's all us versus them. And when we can switch to, no, we're together. We are brothers and sisters in this journey. my learning, healing, and growing is your learning, healing, and growing, and vice versa. And by telling our stories and by reclaiming, by saying, I'm a beautiful person. I'm a perfect work in progress. I'm doing the best that I know how to do. And this is what's happening so far. Tell me what's going on with you. We can share and learn and grow together in community. And that piece is now, then we start taking the step of, oh, I'm in a community. I'm not alone. I've never been alone. And then we can get into the kind of what I call the fun stuff on the psychedelics. Oh, and I'm part of nature. And this isn't separated apart. This is also part of my community and allowing me to breathe and to supporting me.
Yeah, when you after that and you go into nature and you like the guys that I did it with, they took me foraging, and I'd never been foraging. I hiked a ton in the woods. Love the woods, are my peace, but going and picking potential medicines like the Amanita muscaria was my first mushroom I found on my own, and I'm like, I just picked an anti-anxiety medicine for somebody and a sleep medication for somebody taken properly. I'm like, that is the coolest thing I've ever done. Literally. Like, this is a healing power. I'm like, why have we not done this? But as I walk through the woods, I'm more attentive to what's around me because of the connection and what I step on and how I touch it. Like a tree, just feeling the energy from it. And really just, I think, I'm not a woo-woo kind of guy. I don't think that's what they call them, the woo-woos.
I get that.
I've heard my friends say that a lot. But there is something about that energy that happens when those things, we are so suppressed in so many ways, and feeling and being in touch. And that's interesting. Yeah, very much so.
I think men, even more so, that we are told, again, very young, boys don't cry, get tough, brush it off. We aren't really told to express our emotions in our generation. And I think to have the types of relationships I want to have, I need to share and I need to give and to actively listen and to emotionally connect with people.
Yeah.
And that's relatively new.
Yeah. We live in such a monocular society. It's very interesting. And my theory is behind capitalism and scarcity. Some of us grew up with scarcity. So when you get a little bit, you hoard it. And it's like, well, but aren't we supposed to share and give back? And it's nice to have things. But at the end of the day, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, what would you do if you had a lot of money, Britton? How different would you be? I wouldn't be any different. I'd still be mad. I'd still be upset. I'd still be this or that. And, we think those things are going to make our lives better, and they really don't. They separate us from the very thing that we need, and that is community, and that is people. That how would you say that wisdom, philanthropy that we spread amongst our community, that is spread amongst us. It's a transferred energy that we give each other that we don't have in America.
Right, but we do. We see it in other countries. We see it in countries that have far less and have a higher happiness ratio. We see it in countries that have far less and have many life outcomes that are stronger than what we have, and stronger community. And we, I think it's embedded in the scarcity mindset is embedded so early on, and when I think about the things that I was told, like it's not enough to just be scared right now. Like, oh my goodness, what if your kids don't get into this school? And what if they don't then get into this college? And what if, and you're scared. But then also you've got to, I'm told like, well, what if you're 90 and you need assisted living care and it's going to be $12,000 a month for each of you and you better save money. It's a lot of fear of like, you've got to hoard.
Yeah.
Work harder. Yeah, or we forget that there is enough for everybody now. We could feed the world now. And I forget from time to time that on every metric, this is the greatest time ever to be alive. Lots of problems. Of course, there's lots of problems, but by abundance of food and decreased cost of knowledge and housing and violence. Yeah. All metrics, this is the best time to be alive. And all metrics point that it's going to continue in that direction, and still lots of problems to clean up.
Yeah, and even though we're in probably the highest rate of quote unquote mental crisis that's ever been, you kind of mentioned this as well. Not this, but that people are getting tired. People are getting tired of things not working. You know, big pharma doesn't, it keeps you numb. It doesn't really solve the problem. It doesn't even really band-aid the problem a whole lot. It's just an open wound that you're just kind of staring at and numb to. So I think people, but they're also, we're in such a heavy crisis. You're starting to see people, it's kind of like popcorn. They're just starting to wake up and be like, I'm done doing this. I've had enough. You know, what is the solution? And unfortunately that creates a higher suicide rate, but it also creates a motivation for spiritual awakening per se.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who believe we're in the middle of a religious reformation. That 500 years ago, we moved from kind of the practice into the reading. And we've now had that where, okay, we sat in pews and we learned what other people said and we could read it ourselves. But now we're moving into an embodied. I want to feel what it feels like to connect with source or spirit. I want to know this for myself. And I don't need to understand how it works for you or to follow a set of rules. But with this experience, I'm going to be able to reclaim my power, reclaim my voice, reclaim my relationship with source, spirit, God, universe. And I know that that can be woo-woo to people to even think about that as a possibility.
We're moving into the woo-woo stage.
Oh, we're moving into that woo-woo stage. Sure. Absolutely. I love what you're saying about, you said that people are getting fed up. They're getting tired. They're getting tired of the propaganda, and I'm treading very carefully here, but we've had 50 years of prohibition when it comes to these medicines. So this is the only propaganda I'm talking about right now. Right. That all drugs are bad. They're going to fry your brain, that this is your brain on drugs. They're going to lead to addiction. Propaganda. So we have these conversations to normalize these medicines, to remind us that thousands and thousands of years and many, many cultures all using these tools. Indigenous cultures typically don't do things that harm their populations. And that if we pay attention to how do we then mitigate the risk associated with these. And we talk about source, where did your drugs come from? Set, what is your mindset going in and setting? What's the physical environment? If we pay attention to those things, the probability of having a negative outcome is very, very low. Now, that doesn't mean it's zero. Right. So that's where you have to pay attention to source, set, and setting. I would strongly recommend you understand the risks, because even if the relative risk is low, there are still risks. But it's a relative risk. We have 400 some people who die of acetaminophen overdoses every year in our country. And I think the known psilocybin fatalities are like 3. So
I was going to say they're pretty low, but maybe you can speak into this or not. But I was wondering on a medical, because I saw a 105-pound woman take the same dose I did of a massive hero's dose of 8 grams. And basically, it didn't hurt her in any way or affect her any differently than it affected me, really. You know, but that's the thing about psychedelic, or psilocybin, at least I can speak to.
Psilocybin specifically. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can have this plan that you're going to go in and face stuff. It's going to sit you down and tell you what you need to face. Like,
so you're covering 2 different points there. Point 1 that you were making was some psychedelics, the dose is weight dependent. So if you're taking MDMA, if you're taking ketamine, they're going to create a dose that's based on your weight. Psilocybin doesn't really work that way. Okay. That's much more built on your tolerance, experience, what your goals are. But yeah, you can have a 105-pound person next to a 300-pound person on the exact same dose of psilocybin, and they're going to be fine. And then the second piece you were bringing up, which I just lost, was I lost it.
I forgot to.
We're doing a lot of that today. Oh my goodness. What were you?
I think I have this extra ADHD today.
I don't know what's going on today, but there was a second point there, and it's okay. We covered the first one on weight. But I guess the bigger thing here is just dose is important. So again, where did your drugs come from? If you're not working with a medical provider where it's pharmaceutical grade, or someone who does this all the time and says they test and they're super experienced, if you're buying off the internet, there's a chance that your drugs can be laced. Please get them tested. If you type in anonymous drug testing, there's places you can send a sample to. They'll test it. They'll tell you what it is. Or you can go to Dance Safe and buy strips. There's lots of things to test. Set is your mindset. Do you know? I mean, have you picked who's helping you before? Who's helping you after? What's the rules of engagement in the room?
Yeah.
Is there talking? Is there no talking?
Setting is huge.
And then setting is the third, is the physical environment. Who's there if something happens, so that you can surrender and someone else is worrying about this world as it moves forward. If Amazon comes to the door, if the kids come home, if whatever happens, if someone has just a normal medical issue, they just happen to be on the medicine, who's there to help if those things happen?
Right. Yeah,
So-
it's good to have a facilitator with you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ideally,
it's
too.
dangerous to do it without. I've been face down and just sitting there and, sitting in my spirit like, you need to get up. You need to get up. So we'll have that conversation for 45 minutes while slobber's coming out of my mouth. I'm like, Britton, remember, you're diabetic. You need to go check your sugar. So, you definitely want to have some facilitation there to walk with you and watch you. But
when you're doing large dose, and then again, for the listeners, there's a range of ways to take these medicines. Some will do large dose, like you're talking about. Others do microdoses, and that's very different. And sometimes people take something in between as they're walking in nature, and that's very different. But when you're going to the large dose, I'm truly giving myself, surrendering to the medicine. I want these kind of bigger experiences. Yeah, having facilitators are best practice.
Super dangerous because it generally debilitates your body in a way that you can't really talk it out of what it's doing. Like it stiffens up, or it just goes totally limp, or it's really about that mind is moving, and it seems like it's using most of the energy up top instead of to make the body do what it's supposed to do.
There's a famous scientist in the space who says, he's been working with us for 50, 60 years. And he says, if you don't have someone there to facilitate, there's a part of you that knows that you're not safe. And then you can only go so deep. Yeah. So that's one reason. The other super important thing is, okay, you're in a non-ordinary state of consciousness. Who protects you from someone else in the room doing something to you? Right. And there's a lot of trauma that happens from bad actors. So having a couple facilitators, having some guardians, there's a whole protocol. And this applies whether you're looking at a medical model, a spiritual model, a retreat model, who's going to be in the room with you, and what's the protocols are fair questions for you to ask in advance.
Yeah. I started doing lower dose, around 2 grams.
Okay. How's that going for you?
Well, and that's only on a rare occasion if I want to enter in. And I found that the last time it was just about right. It broke me, and in a way I didn't have the major like God experience, but in a way I did. And that has actually perpetuated me moving forward in a different way. So that was my second journey since June. So I don't know, what is that, 8-10 months, something like that. But I knew that would happen. I knew if I made it out of the first one, I would probably be in probably 2 to 3 journeys before all the past was gone. And I don't know why I knew that or why I thought that, but I was like, and I felt that. I'm like, okay, so you got through the big part, and that was this ideology and the walls that really built that foundation. Those don't exist anymore. So now you get to build the foundation the way it should be and properly with good language. And that's actually snowballed into balancing my life with exercise, food, yoga, meditation, prayer. And what that did was say, this is how you respect yourself, Britton. And I was like, oh, at the center, it's as I draw this out for myself, I'm like, I'm doing all these things, and the target is respect. And it's not just respect for me, but for my faith and for myself and then others. And I was like, that's a beautiful way to like really start looking at your life. So it's motivated me to become that very thing that I was supposed to become, or that I was made to be initially. And in kind of a horrific way, but not bad. But and this is what we were kind of talking about earlier is the I think where we got lost is psychedelics or psilocybin in particular. It doesn't matter the plan you have going in to face yourself. It will take you and sit you down where it wants you to sit. And you will face the things that are the most prevalent blocking your way that you generally can't see. And that's what it did for me. I should talk more on my own. Right.
You covered a lot of ground there. It's I think I'm just going to echo what you said. What I heard you say was this. For you, having a large dose ego death, big experience was needed as a first step. Mm-hmm. And it was so shattering of the ways you viewed yourself and the world around you, that you emerged with a whole new way of seeing and being and feeling. And then you intrinsically intuitive for yourself, you knew, okay, I don't need to do that again, but I do want to use this tool for maintenance, for connection, for a rebuild, a reconstructing, a reprogramming, a reminder, and I'm going to use a much less dose. And then you found that less dose, while was different, but still powerful. And I love that for so many reasons. I mean, for some people, it is one dose in their lifetime. For others, it becomes some kind of a practice. And it doesn't have to be black or white, a microdose or a hero's dose. That there's a way to use these medicines. In the spiritual ceremonial space, there's a lot of people who work in that lower threshold. There's kind of a middle zone where it can actually increase anxiety, but like 2 grams is beautiful. And there are a lot of people who start at the 5, 6, 7 grams, and then they dial it back when they're ready. In the ketamine world, they work kind of they give typically 6 doses in a small window of time, 4 weeks. Okay. And then they do kind of a maintenance dose, but it's different. Research shows the efficacy isn't as long, so it can be so powerful. So I want to be clear, ketamine can be powerful. Right. And it doesn't have the same length of effect as psilocybin has shown to be have.
Yeah. And then if you add a microdose, like a 0.01 gram microdose to your week, 5 days a week, take the weekend off. So like you were saying, it doesn't build up in your system. And that tremendously helped that neuroplasticity. I felt like my brain was molding every day, and it's almost like you can feel it and experience it happening because my response system is changing. You know, that response, even though my body might remember a situation, my mind is like, no, the things that would come out of my mouth, I'm like, that's not what's going on in my body. My body's going into fight or flight, and my brain and my mouth are being calm and being articulate and kind. And I'm like, oh, it's interesting. And reacting in ways that I never reacted before, nor did I plan out or intend. Mm-hmm. It's just that, again, my body, my reaction or my reactive nature to what I had learned over my life didn't have the same effect. It was like, oh, it's kind of stagnant, and now it's getting much, much better as I move along. But you know, putting that work in, that post work, again, that's the thing. I think if you're not healing, you're not doing the post work, because that's really what it's about. All you're doing, that it's just the catalyst. All it did was light my fuse. That's it. That's all it did. That big, fantastic one-time dose lit my rocket.
Love that. The microdosing, which is where you were just diving in on. So I'm going to
Mhm.
just highlight a few things that you said. You're talking about taking a 10th to a 20th of a macrodose. So for those listening, that is typically called subperceptual. It's so small you don't even feel that you've taken it, or certainly subintoxicating, but that you should be able to microdose and work, take care of your kids, do all those things. That's when you know you've taken kind of the right dose microdose. And then you brought up that you don't take it 7 days a week. There's one protocol for 3, another for 4. It sounds like you're doing 5, but those are just suggestions. But okay, so you're taking it a few days a week. And then one thing you didn't say that I'm just going to highlight is it's really important that you take a 2-week break every month. And the reason why is there is a theory, although it has not been shown, that there could be cardiovascular risk if you take it all the time. So taking a 2-week break after 30 theoretically resets the risk and you're good to go.
Oh, wow.
So just something to think about with microdosing. And then the research is kind of split. There's some research that says this is amazing. It reduces depression, reduces anxiety, increases connectiveness. It helps with creativity. And there's other research that says it's a placebo. It doesn't really matter, in my opinion, what it is if it works. So
I will take the placebo.
I'll take the placebo as long as it's working.
Yeah.
But yeah, people have found really great success. And then, and this ties back to something you said earlier. It's not that hard to grow mushrooms. So there's a whole movement out there called decrim nature. They're kind of their foundational thesis is that no adult should tell another adult that they can't put nature in their body. Secondary thesis is, look, this is about access. The medical model is expensive. We can grow our own mushrooms. We can find mushrooms. And if you go, there's lots of places online that you can buy grow kits and things and give up a closet and grow mushrooms at home. And for very little money, then people buy a scale and a pill capsule filler and a coffee grinder, and they make their own capsules. Super affordable. It's another option for those that are like, I don't know what to do and I don't want to go buy my drugs from someone else. And all right, well, here's another option.
Well, and growing is so cool.
And
growing your own stuff, or even doing any type of gardening, it's so healing. It's so cool. I mean, eating your own food, unbelievable. I love it. And natural food, you're not getting it from the grocery store. You're actually going and picking your own greens. And, luckily I'm in Colorado and a lot of elk. So it's all natural food, natural meat. And it's just wonderful.
Today would be a good day for some elk stew. It is snowy and cold here in North Carolina. And it sounds delicious.
It's so yummy. I learned how to cook it this last year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, make it real tender. And yeah, so just a buddy taught me how to do, was it a slow sear? Doing slow sear with elk. It was tender. It was perfect.
You've had a big year.
I'd like something calm for once. So yeah, I have, to say the least. I have a lot of avalanches. Lots. But, and that's part of building my strength. There's like this last one happened over the holidays, over Christmas, and it was bad, but it pushed me in a direction. Instead of debilitating me, it motivated me in a way that with the podcast, with my life, with the balance, with everything, it pushed me in a direction that I didn't see coming. I thought I was in this healing, or pretty healed, like really balanced, doing really, really well. And now I'm in this, I see something even greater ahead of me. And that has never been, I've never seen light at the end of the tunnel. All I've seen is obstacle in my life, darkness, actually. And now there's light in the tunnel, not at the end of the tunnel. And I can see there's going to be some bumps in the road and some obstacles, but I've never had a vision of what my future might look like, ever. And now I have a vision of that. Now I have that motivation and that purpose and that drive. And that purpose and drive, you'd think, well, the podcast, no, it's not that. It's not that. This is a foundation for what's to come. And this will be a part of that, but it's part of the foundation of what's to come. And I don't know what that is, but my faith says that, my faith is like, yeah, we're going to go get you ready for that. I'm like, okay, I'll accept that invitation. And it's going to be hard and it's going to be ugly at times, but I think that's one of the big things that we don't do in life is we don't accept the invitation to life. Life is very, very hard. It's difficult and it's tumultuous, but that's the beauty of it. When you're riding the rapids, if you can sit there and enjoy the ups and downs and enjoy the water, then quit paddling upstream, go downstream.
It's really beautiful and important words. I love the analogy with the rap. I mean, if we try to stop the boat in the middle of the river, it doesn't end well. Sometimes you just have to accept, I'm in rocky water, I've got to make it down. I just got to go. And I love what you're understanding. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about with work, that, okay, podcast or anything else I do, this is just a process. Can I show up at whatever it is I do? I'm chopping wood and carrying water. Can I just show up and be aware and be awake? And if I can do that with this, I can do it with that. I can do it with that, I can do it with the other thing, and on and on and on down the line. And we all forget. And it's not that we become someone else, it's just that we stop from time to time acting with that level of awareness and awakening. And this is where community comes in. Having people who can just remind us, dude, you are loved. You are amazing. Remember? Oh, I forgot. Okay, I'm back. Thank you.
Yeah. And so oftentimes with suicide ideology, and some, maybe this goes even without suicide ideologies, we don't feel loved and we don't feel important. And we convince ourselves and we can say, well, look at the room. Mm-hmm. Nobody's on my side. Well, turn your head around because you got people supporting you. And, that's what I always miss is like, well, I don't have any friends. Really? Why don't you think about it? Oh, I guess I got 4 or 5. Well, that's not enough. It's like, no, those are actually your good friends. They are enough. They are enough. Not all of them are going to agree with your path or the trajectory, but they all love you and they all see the gift of who you could be if you get rid of this ideology and this thing that is hindering and haunting you. If you could see past that and maybe walk with it, maybe be comfortable with it, then maybe you can really see your true self, because we see that. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, don't believe yourself when you're telling yourself negative things. Believe the people around you that see the beauty in who you are, because that's the true nature of who you are. People will always see the true beauty of who you are, the outside source.
What's interesting about you in this, that you do so beautifully. So yes, we can all do that. We can say, hey, what I see for you is this, and what I see for you that. And that's, in my experience, it's hard to receive that because my defenses come up. You don't know, you don't understand this. You don't understand that. You're telling me, but what you've done with this podcast and what you seem to do in general is you talk from the I. My experience was this. I was actively suicidal. I was 2 days away from. I had a plan. I had a this. I had a that. And that's so powerful because as I listen to you, I can then connect my own stories without you having to. So for me, I chose psilocybin as a Hail Mary. For me, this is what opened up. And you are telling your story over and over in all the different variations, and you're finding new language, and you're finding new words, and you're finding new elements, and you're sharing it over and over from the I, which is so personal and so vulnerable and so powerful. And those who are listening to this, they don't, in my opinion, none of us want someone else telling us, do this.
Yeah.
But you have stomped into this world saying, this is my experience and I'm willing to share it for anyone who wants to listen. And I'm so grateful for what you do.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I really do. You're in the field and it's not an easy, sometimes we come across people that really touch our hearts and our souls and you want to fix it, but you can't. So it kind of pushes
Not
on
our
you.
jobs.
Yeah.
Not our
And
jobs. No, all we can do
it's
is
not
we
ours
love.
to carry it.
No. We can model, we can love, we can non-judgmentally look. But I know my teacher, I mean, I know I get into trouble if I ever think I know better for someone what they should do than they know for themselves. No. I can just be a supportive sounding board.
Yeah. Well, I think one of my big things, I prayed for wisdom many, many years ago when I was 18, when this really started. And now my prayers keep me humble because it's not about me. Parts of it are about me, but it's not all about me. And that's what that's why I love doing what I'm doing. I love waking up. I mean, I get to struggle with myself every day and say, it's not about you, you ding dong. You spent all your time lamenting over suicide. Now it's about other people. You don't get to look monocular anymore. You don't get to look all the way inward all the time. And now you get to, you process so you can teach and you can learn and you can be a student.
Simultaneously. And you said that earlier, you're creating a map of, and you're talking about so I'm doing this for myself and I'm doing this for others. And it's that individual work done in community. It's that recognition of, okay, I can feel the greatest, but if I feel great and I'm surrounded by people who don't, something's off because we're all connected. So I need to continually share, continually learn, continually heal, continually leads the way. And it's okay to claim that and to be selfish about that and to say, in my universe, I am the center of my universe. And that's okay. And it's a universe. It's not a single planet. It's all of us connected.
Yeah. I heard something cool the other day, and we'll talk about God a little bit here. I heard this quote, and I think it was a scientist. I can never remember his name. I love him. He's an astrologist, I believe. And he's like, it's so easy for people to believe in the virgin birth of the universe, but it's not so easy for people to believe in the virgin birth of Christ. I was like, oh, that's actually interesting. And the virgin birth of basically humanity out of an organism that happened at a spark. It's easy to believe that for some people, but it's not easy to believe in a deity or a creator. What do you think of that? Because there's just, let me add to this a little bit.
Sure.
There's this notion right now that, especially when you go into psychedelics, you'll either meet God or realize that you have this godlike nature. I'm sorry, I almost misspoke. The Christian narrative is that we're made in the image of God. So my friend would say we have a drop of God in us. What is your take on that? I'm curious about this because my own theology is racing through my head.
So we all culturally have different wisdom traditions that we grew up with. And there are groups in the psychedelic space that are trying to provide homes for that. So there's a group called Ligare, Ligare, that's run by an Episcopal priest named Hunt Priest. And it's a Christians and psychedelics organization. There's a group called Shefa by Rabbi Zach. That's Jews and psychedelics. There's a number of people in the Muslim faith. There's tons of Buddhist psychedelic organizations. For me, I see more similarities than differences across these religions. For me, I feel that it's hard to take psychedelics and not feel connected to everybody. It's hard to take psychedelics and not understand the teachings of the great prophets or God, depending on your perspective. So if we look at the teachings of Jesus, those line up pretty right on with the way I experienced psychedelics. Love your neighbor as yourself. So many teachings.
Right.
And I also recognize that institutionalized religion has caused a lot of harm, so that it's hard to even talk about God anymore because of the sins of the institutions. So I am personally inclined to say we are spiritual creatures having a human experience, that our essence is the same for all of us. And each of us can decide for ourselves if we want to pick a team and go in that direction, or if we want to have our own spiritual practice. But I believe these tools help people come to a more spiritual place, period. And for some people, that is getting deeper into whatever wisdom tradition they grew up with. For some, it's moving to a different wisdom tradition. But either way, they're deeply connecting with Source, Spirit, God with these tools.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine actually came full circle. I moved outside of it and have a few times, but came back full circle. And, I know that I, because of the way I think, I'm like, well, maybe you're just moving back there because that's what you were taught as a kid. And maybe you're just running the hamster wheel. But I've really gone outside and really pushed the limits of moving outside from my indoctrination, and honestly really just flipping that whole thing off, and came back to it in a way that I never expected, in a profound way, and realized I'm just tired of being ashamed of the very thing that I hold comfort in. I've always held comfort here. This is the very thing that when I'm upset, when I'm crying, when I'm angry, it's the very thing that I go to every single time. So why am I not nurturing it in a way that feeds my life and waters my soul? And that's what I'm doing now. And that I'm enjoying the process of beginning to have language behind something that I so value it. And even though I've treated it poorly throughout my life, it still holds great value for me. And I've always been embarrassed of that. Now I'm like, no, I'm done being what society says I should be. And it's amazing to enter into a life that is not justified by my own language or my own means, if that makes sense. It's no longer, well, I'm doing this because I did this because I'm reacting this way because. It's, no, now I get to go out and live and be a genuine.
What I'm hearing you say is I'm shifting from responding to what society or my parents have told me, this is what I need to believe and this is what I need to do, and or I feel embarrassed by believing this, to I get to have religion on my own terms, and I don't really care what society thinks. This is what I believe, and I'm going to embrace it and find comfort in it. And yeah, I'm choosing this versus being told to it. Yeah. There's a beautiful books on the Christian side. There's a beautiful book called The Big New Book of Christian Mysticism. And it's just Christians for 1,000 years having mystical experiences.
Oh, wow.
And all the different ways they did it. On the Islamic side, Essential Sufism by Fadiman is a beautiful book on kind of their mystical experiences and trying to, and obviously Kabbalah, and there's a number of things on the Jewish side, but there is a long history of people having mystical experiences occasioned by a variety of things.
Interesting.
And I encourage anyone who's curious about how their faith intersects with, that's the language to search for, is mystical experiences and my faith. And then you can even go so far as mystical experiences, my faith, and psychedelics, and just see what pops up. But there's a lot. There's a guy named Houston Smith, who was a really renowned religious scholar. Happened to be Christian, but he spent like a decade studying Buddhism and a decade studying Islam. And he's got a book called The World's Religions, which I think sold like 50 million or 5 million copies. It's a huge book. But he also has a book called Cleansing the Doors of Perception, which is his experience using psychedelics as a deep Christian. And that's fascinating. So there's
what's that one called?
Cleansing the Doors of Perception is that book.
What was the other one?
The World's Religions is a fascinating book on just kind of a deep dive into.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, kind of all religions, and it's super. It came out of, I think, like a PBS special back in the 70s, and it's really an accessible book. It's not written like a textbook. It's kind of it's a great read.
And what was the author's name on that again?
Houston Smith. And then I see here. Yeah, those are the two I'd start with him that are great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that stuff. Especially in those contexts, because you got historical stuff there. I love that. Yeah, I do a lot of history. Well, self-teaching. I read a lot of history.
Uh-huh.
If you want to know where something goes wrong, look at history. If you want to see how the hamster wheel rolls,
yeah, it's also fun to explore. I've loved my wife's her second career has been a history teacher, and it's been fun for the last 13 years that she's gone down this, got a master's in teaching, has been teaching, but learning how the way I read history growing up isn't, and thought this is the truth, to understand that no, there's many different ways to look at history. And I'll use this funny example in the drug space. There's a really great book called Drug Use for Grown-Ups. And it's by a guy named Carl Hart, who is a professor at Columbia University. And he talks a lot about psychedelic exceptionalism, saying, okay, there's actually an issue with psychedelics in that we think we're better than other drug users because we have this holier experience. And who's to say that just doing it for fun is not good enough? So I think that's fascinating. He then dives into the flywheel between government policy, leading to academic appointments and what professors write about, leading to what the newspapers report about, or leading to what the police do, and how that's disproportionately affected black and brown people over the last 50 years, and that we as a society we don't have adult responsible discussions about drugs, period. And he is an addiction specialist, decades of experience. It's a beautiful book because he talks about, look, I'm a father, I'm a professor, I'm a husband, I'm a taxpayer, and sometimes I do drugs. And then sometimes I do drugs just for fun. And it's really like, whoa, what is he saying? Is he saying this out loud? Are we allowed to say that? Are we allowed to say we do anything for fun in our society?
Yeah, especially drugs.
Especially drugs.
I mean,
yeah, drug use for grown-ups, Dr. Carl Hart. Can't recommend it highly enough.
I'll check that out. Well, I suppose we'll be closing this out. Is there anything you want to leave us with today, Matt? Is any suggestions, advice for people out there struggling? And I was going to say with veterans and all that, but we're in an epidemic stage, and it's people in general are suffering.
So I guess I'll end with two things. First, just to you. I mean, I appreciate what you do. You have these conversations. These conversations you've stated are healing for you, and they help you learn, heal, and grow. And they're healing for the people you have on. So for me, I've learned, I've healed, and I've grown today. And this is conversation with you. And if we do nothing else besides you and I have this conversation today, that's amazing. And I'm super grateful for that work that you do in the world. If someone is still listening to this after an hour and a half, my question to you is, what are you listening for? What don't you believe in your own intuition that you're looking for me or Britton to give you permission to do? And then how do you take action on whatever it is that's causing you to listen to this for this long, to find a solution in this space that works for you? And you can use, if my books are helpful, amazing. If there's a psychedelic society near you that might be helpful, that's amazing. But what are you listening for? Or what are you waiting for in this space? You have legal options with ketamine. You have legal options with clinical trials. You have ceremonial options. There's psychedelic churches all over the country. You have retreat options. Yeah. So think it, but don't overthink it.
Right.
Especially if you're listening to this particular podcast. There are options out there for you.
There's enough to think about.
Yeah. And then also and then the risk reduction things we talked about. Nothing is safe. Nothing is 0% chance of things happening. And there's ways to reduce risk because a lot of the dangers come in the fringe. It's I got hurt because I didn't have someone keeping a safe space. I didn't have someone to process with afterwards. I didn't have someone to help me prepare in advance. I took too much. I took too little. I had it laced, whatever. Think about source, set, and setting. And again, all of these things are in those books I have. They're on Amazon. You can go to my website. There's lots of free things out there. But if you're still listening, why?
Yeah.
Time for action.
Those are good questions. Great questions that we should be asking ourselves. Well, Matt, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you being here on the Suicide Monk and blessing us with your knowledge and just presence. Really appreciate this. It's been fantastic. Love talking to you. So,
feeling as mutual, my friend. I love this too. You have a beautiful rest of your day, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we'll see you on the good side.
That's a deal.